everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. Today let's discuss the recent coronavirus crisis in China. China has been on a countrywide lockdown for 3 years already. Xi Jinping didn't want to give up on his zero-COVID policy, which resulted in the white paper revolution in the end. Chinese people finally started demanding rights to vote and started saying that they don't want an emperor to rule over them. Of course, that got Xi Jinping scared, and to let the voices of the protest come down, the CCP, without warning, all of a sudden introduced the so-called new 10 requirements. Even though the CCP didn't say that they're abolishing the zero-COVID explicitly, the new policy looks like a U-turn in everything they've been doing for the past 3 years. From zero-COVID to coexistence in a couple of days. So, of course, the Chinese people have been shocked. What is interesting? Even though the CCP's government has officially approved 9 domestic Chinese vaccines, Chinese people still don't trust them. They don't think that the Chinese vaccines are effective. And after the white paper revolution started, the people living abroad also realized that the Chinese people knew what has been going on for a very long time already. They've just been putting up with the CCP's regime. And most of the Chinese people know that the Chinese vaccines are not effective against COVID. They have very low protection rate. Everybody knew about the high levels of government commercial corruption in the CCP. Or to put it straight, in countries like China, all the businesses are under direct control of the government officials. And this also leads to many of the products made by the government having very low quality standards. The Chinese people don't trust the Chinese vaccines and even doubt that those vaccines can be harmful. Therefore, we can see that not many people are actually willing to take a vaccine shot in China. But the worst thing, in my opinion, is not only the problems with the Chinese vaccines, but the fact that at the same time with loosening the restrictions, the CCP still doesn't allow the vaccines with proven efficacy and effectiveness rates to enter China. It only shows that the CCP doesn't care about its people and doesn't want to do anything to help the Chinese. And all this zero-COVID nonsense was just an oppression tool and a people's movement control measure. Even after they lift the lockdowns, the perception of the CCP by the Chinese people won't change. And it all comes from the distrust in the totalitarian government. I think that the CCP only cut one of the money streams they got themselves and the affiliated businesses rich during the pandemic, forcing the people to take daily PCR tests. They're not allowing the effective vaccines to enter China, so that the CCP can have the monopoly over COVID vaccines. Meaning, Chinese people won't have any other choice but choose the officially approved less effective vaccines. So, as usual, the CCP declined the vaccine donation from the United States. Secondly, the CCP restricted all the people's movement for 3 years, and they lifted the restrictions all of a sudden. This led to one thing. Those people who are afraid to catch the virus or who have health problems didn't have enough time to react in advance. What would those people do? Of course, they would buy all the available medicine in bulk, meaning if there is an outbreak later on, there will be less available medicine for the people who catch the virus. It reminded me of the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, when the CCP has been concealing the virus. The policies of the Chinese government only led to panic buying of masks and medicine. Masks manufacturers couldn't react as quickly. At the same time, Chinese citizens residing abroad started panic buying masks in the countries they live, thus causing those countries to have shortages when the pandemic came there. It happened all around the world, in Europe, in the US, Canada, Australia, in countries in South America, Africa and Asia. And yeah, the Chinese people have to get used to the fact that there are other illnesses around also. It's not only about COVID. You can also catch a common cold or flu, and it all comes with normal movement of the people. And as right now the hospitals are packed in China, the people that need care for their chronic illnesses might face the life risks again. And now the news comes from China that Beijing morgues and funeral homes are unable to deal with the amount of the new remains. I also think that if you look at chaos caused by loosened restrictions in China, and if you compare it to how Taiwan has been lifting the lockdowns, it only shows how different these two countries are. The Taiwanese government has adopted a gradual opening up policy, allowing most Taiwanese to slowly adapt to post-COVID life. This obvious comparison not only slaps the CCP's government in its face, but also shows how wrong those CCP supporters are in Taiwan. They have always been saying that China's epidemic prevention policy is better than Taiwan's, and at the same time kept on saying that Taiwan belongs to China, which is actually a pretty big contradiction. But facts don't care about your feelings. Taiwan doesn't belong to China, and Taiwan is much better at COVID prevention. Recently, the CCP imposed trade sanctions on Taiwan's exports, seafood and beer. The reasons for the embargo embargo are very far-fetched. So it is obvious that this is the CCP's use of bullying Taiwan to partially distract the Chinese public from the current domestic problems. The pro-China politicians in Taiwan, of course, will always stand by the CCP. They first condemned the Taiwan government for the CCP's trade sanctions, and at the same time, they also advocated that the Taiwan government should provide cold medicine to China to show some friendliness. There's just a new level of mass hysteria and Stockholm syndrome, in my opinion. But there is a way Taiwan can help China, actually. I'm just not sure if those pro-China politicians would agree. But Taiwan can actually donate some of the Medigen vaccines, which are made in Taiwan, to China. I need to explain it to the folks who aren't familiar with Taiwan's politics. Pro-Chinese politicians in Taiwan, they all hate Taiwan's vaccine. Even though Medigen has proven to be effective against COVID and has been officially approved, those pro-China politicians like calling it saline solution. Talking about saline solution, it actually is China where there have been cases of injecting saline solution instead of the vaccine, which only proves that they're trying to blame the Taiwanese government in everything that is being done by the CCP. But in reality, Medigen is a very good vaccine that can protect you from COVID. It is much better than anything made in China, and Taiwanese people can actually confirm Medigen's side effects are one of the mildest. At the same time, if you apply the CCP's logic here, the CCP should consider Medigen as domestic, right? They won't probably decline such a donation, right? So, back to the topic. Can China return to the state it was in 2019 before all the lockdowns? My answer to this question is no. The epidemic and the CCP's attitude towards Russia's aggression against Ukraine have made the US and the European countries see the facts clearly. And some countries began to define the CCP's regime and China under the CCP as a country that is more threatening than Russia. Many foreign investors can no longer believe that China has a stable investment environment. The US also started re-evaluating their supply chain and the ways to decouple from China in chip manufacturing. The US wants to ensure that the access to semiconductors will not be controlled by the CCP. Therefore, even if China loosens its COVID restrictions, it will be difficult for the economy to return to the state it used to be before 2019. Although currently the Chinese people still have some hope for the time when there will be no more lockdowns, when they start finding out how the situation looks in reality. The unemployment rate, the real estate collapse, and a series of economic failures, plus the supply cooperatives that Xi the Flu is promoting, or the communist policies when the state enterprises advance and the private sector retreats, will only lead to the total dismantling of the market economy. So we can expect the next wave of protests against Xi Jinping and the CCP's regime in the near future. At the same time, Taiwan has to also make more preparations before the next wave of protests come. Inciting hatred towards the neighbors has always been the first choice for the CCP to divert attention of the public. Also be careful if the CCP will try to use the Crimean experience and invade Taiwan outer islands close to China to distract the general public from domestic problems. These are the key points worth observing in the future. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye bye.